Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright friends, welcome to a recommendations video. Sorry the lighting is a little bit whack, but it's one of those. It has been so sunny here, right? I know I complained about this on a recent video, but usually the winter doesn't do me so dirty like this, okay? And I can have better lighting, but again, I know you guys don't care, so I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna close the blinds, but they don't like close perfectly because I have those like, you know, the hanging ones. So there's random light splotch back here, but whatever. So you clicked on this video today because it says there is public sex recommendations today. So I have made a voyeurism recommendation before under like taboo or whatever. And I don't know whether I'll call this one, I'll probably call this one oddly specific because I had some people asking for more so than just voyeurism. Like voyeurism usually is like what we would call kind of like the consensual version, you know, when it's involved in like BDSM where you're like at a club, and we do have some of those in here, of course, but they're usually ones where both the people watching and the people participating like know that they're a part of it. Of course, there's the kinds where people are sneaking, but when I think of voyeurism, the kink, I think of like everybody has, you know, they have consented to participate. Well, then there's a little bit of a more forbidden version, which again, might include some voyeurism. Usually the people who do it have a voyeurism kink, but there's a version of where I'm classifying public sex, where either the people being watched don't like want to be watched, but like there's specifically ones for that, or they want to be in public but not have anyone else know, or they do want people to know, but it's not necessarily where like every single person consented. I don't know. I know that's kind of all over the place. You'll see, because each book that I recommend, I'll explain which situation that book has. But I just wanted to put together some that are public sex recommendations because it can be super hot when it's a forbidden one. And one of the people who like requested this one, they had a super specific request, which was one or both of them gets off in public, like under the table at a restaurant, or, you know, in a bathroom stall where there's people coming in and out and they're in there. So yeah, those were the really like specific ones. And I didn't have enough of those to put them in its own. So if you're watching, I don't think I had a name for who requested this one, but if you're watching, I have some of those in here, but I needed to include some other ones with it as well. So hopefully that helps. So let's go ahead and get started with these, and I'll explain each individual situation as we go. I'm sorry. I had to go get a sweater. It's actually super cute. This was one of my Christmas presents from one of my viewers. Her name is Solange. She had me order a sweater from Threads by Sabrina, and it's my Bat Boy shirt. I got it super big, and it's cozy. But anyway, I'm too hot, I'm too cold today. So here we go. We put that on. Now it doesn't quite go with my orange headband, but whatever, we're keeping it on. Okay, let's get to the recommendations. Sorry for the delay in programming here. So the first one I want to recommend is Neon Gods by Katie Robert. So this one is a bit more in a BDSM situation. This is the first in the Dark Olympus series. Honestly, the best one in the series in my opinion. I've sadly decided to kind of give up this series, but we won't focus on that. There actually are a lot of books by Katie Robert that have public sex in them, but a lot of them are that like voyeurism piece. And I decided to pick this one since it was the start of a series, and I also think that the scene of public hotness in here is like really hot. Okay, there's a throne, and he owns the, like, Hades is the king of like the underworld, or not a king, like the god of the underworld in Dark Olympus, and Persephone is hiding out in the lower part of the city where he is, and they are fake dating. Well, to be Hades' fake girlfriend, you have to be okay with BDSM and be willing to perform, because that's something that he does, is perform for his citizens, as it were. So there's a scene where they're going to be kind of like outing their relationship and making it public, and he has this throne he sits on, and she sits on it, and he gets her off in front of everybody, and it's really hot. So it's a really hot scene. it's one that like she's consented to it, but it still feels very taboo because it's like out of her comfort zone. And since she is like fake dating, right, she's trying not to show how much she actually is into this, you know, it's one of those, it's a really hot moment. So that is a great one to start off with. Then we have one that maybe you haven't thought of for this. This is Priest by Sierra Simone, and this was one that came up when I was doing research, and I immediately was like, duh, because these two get it on in the church, sometimes when the church is closed, but a lot of times when they totally could be caught. So this, if you haven't heard of it, this is a taboo novel that is just... it's so good. It's one of the best because it isn't just all about the kink. There's a lot of emotion in what Sierra Simone writes. And in my opinion, it's because she writes erotic romance. She's not writing erotica. So each sex scene, each intimate moment has a heart behind it, has a purpose behind it, and it's propelling the story forward. But in this one, we have our... oh, this is also told from the hero's point of view the whole way. So this is Tyler and Poppy, I think is her name. Yeah, it's Poppy. And she comes to confess at the church, and he is the priest who's hearing her confession. And he does have a history of being into like pretty deviantly sexual things before he entered the priesthood as kind of like penance for something that happened that wasn't his fault, but he's, you know, anyway, those are his reasons. And he starts to have these feelings for Poppy, and they end up spilling over, and sometimes it involves him like jerking off in the confessional while she's telling him things that she's done. There's also a time where they have sex on the altar there when anyone could have come in. They have sex in his office, which that's a little more private, but there's quite a few scenarios that involve the church that they could be caught at any moment. So I would consider that like a public situation because anyone could walk in and see what you're doing, and so it's very forbidden and taboo. All right, then we have one that this is actually coming out soon. I believe it comes out next week. And this is a novella, and it's called Denial by Ali Marr. And this book is actually the one where I was like, ooh, I should make this recommendation video because it has that specific scenario that the person asked for that's public. So this involves them... well, I'll get into more of it, but the specific scene in this one involves this couple out to dinner, and they're both like really messing with each other and ramping up the sexual tension to the point that they can barely eat their food and they need to get home, and they just like tear each other's clothes off, and it's like insane. It was so hot. So that one I would consider like the foreplay is very public, where like they're both trying to like get the other one off first, kind of. So Denial, this was so interesting. So Ali Marr is a newer author. She was a debut in 2023. And she is starting this series that's called Kinkotica. She kind of, you know, made this up for herself, but it's going to be these short kind of erotic novellas that each take on like a different kink. And so this one is orgasm denial. That's why it's called Denial. And this involves a dominant woman and a submissive male, and they've been married for 30 years. So she doesn't like directly say the ages in here, but she says it in one of her Q&As. So they're in like their 50s. They've been together a long time, and they're in a long-term relationship, and things have gotten like a little bit stale in their sexual side. They're still having sex regularly, but it's become more like operational for them. And so I don't want to spoil all the details because this is only a novella, but they basically enter into kind of this challenge together to see how long the man can trust his wife / dom to deny his orgasm, and like she has complete control over that. So there's like a cock cage involved, there's so much edging involved, there are toys, there's pegging in this, there's all these things. But this isn't just about the eroticness of it. Of course there's a lot of sex, but again, this is like an erotic romance novella, so there's a lot happening in the power exchange between these two, and seeing a couple that's been together so long was so beautiful. But anyway, I'm putting it in this one to get it on your radar. It's coming out soon. You know how much I love to pump up small and new authors, and I was just very impressed with this book so much. And if you like kink, if you like, you know, submissive men, if you like to see older characters in a book, like this is a great novella. It was so good. And yeah, there's a scene where things are a little bit public. Okay, now we have one where the sex might be consensual, but it being in public is just inevitable and very uncomfortable at the same time. So the book that I'm talking about is actually Hold by Claire Kent, which y'all know I love my Claire Kent so much. Like, with my whole heart, I love her. And this book is the first in her Hold series, which is actually about like prison planets. And there's this heroine who has been charged with like, I believe she's like a archaeologist, and she was digging in literally into some stuff she shouldn't, got on the wrong side of people. And so she's charged and convicted of this crime and is being sent to this prison planet where it's mostly all men, and she's going to be like torn apart, and like she's going to belong to somebody, and she's going to be raped and used by these people. So when she's getting lowered down into this place, the guard takes pity on her, and he says, find the strongest, baddest man there, offer yourself to him, you know, in an exchange, and do what he says to be. He's like, that is the only way you're going to be protected. That's it. So when she lands there, she only has like a minute to decide, and she sees this man who he has his own cell, and she sees that it can lock in because not everybody has that, and he seems tough and kind of like a loner. And so there's this other guy who's trying to make the move on her, but she picks that one, and he's not even vying for her, but because she's like, can I make a deal with you? And he's like, sure. So he takes her back to his cell, because they're all just kind of like left to wander. And again, some of them have cells and some of them don't. And like food gets dropped once a day, and it just gets like dropped in there. And so only the strongest survive. Like, it is a madhouse. And so right away, she makes this exchange with him, and it's going to be sex whenever he wants it. And he will be, you know, he'll make sure she's fed and safe and not raped by everyone else. So she uses the only asset that she has, which is herself. So the reason why this is public is that there's no, like, there's door on that cell, and it's mostly cement, but like people can see in. And so her very first like sexual encounter with him, like, they all know what's going on, and they're like hooting and hollering and making crass comments while she's giving her body to this man for the first time. And every time after, they'll be able, like, they can hear and see. So this is such a weird book to explain to people, but this was my first Claire Kent that I ever read. And it just like blew my mind, because I couldn't understand why I liked this book so much. But Claire Kent just has a way of making, like, she shows just enough realness in a completely ridiculous scenario where you feel the humanness of the characters, and it makes you think, like, what would you do in this scenario? And I believe that's what both her, well, honestly, all the books I've read by Claire Kent, because there's an escort romance I think does this well too, but in her post-apocalyptic series, the Kindle series, and the Hold series, I think she so well puts you in the position of the heroines and makes you see that, like, you would probably make the same choice, and would you be able to handle it as well as this heroine does? So this is one with public sex that doesn't feel quite as sexy as the other ones, but I still think it's a very interesting look on it, and I want you to read it. I want you to read it. And I haven't said it yet in this video, but I do have Amazon affiliate links to all the books I'm talking about. Even if you're just gonna snag it from Kindle Unlimited, the links will take you right to it, so you can head over and snag a copy of any of these. All right, next up, we have Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate. Of course, this is one I believe was in my voyeurism video as well. But for the public sex aspect of it, I actually want to focus on something else. Though there are quite a few scenes that take place, like, publicly. This also involves voyeurism, where, like, the heroine is a cam girl. This is also a stepbrother romance. Although they, you know, they haven't been around each other as kids, because he was like out of the house really by the time she was there. But anyway, it's still stepbrother romance. And Garrett is one of the owners of the Salacious Players Club, Salacious Club. So there's that. But then, yeah, he discovers that his younger stepsister is a cam girl in one of the sites that he watches it on. So now he really starts getting a hard on for his stepsister. But they have kind of this like hate relationship between them. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I find her attractive. But anyway, eventually things like heat up between the two of them. And again, there are some scenes in the club that is a voyeurism like in there, but there's also a scene where they go on a run together and she ends up like blowing him against a tree on a public pathway. So there is a public sex where anyone could come across them. But there is also a scene at the end where he like lets her do stuff to him in front of everybody as kind of a grovel scene, which I think is very interesting. Okay, next we real quick have Company of Fiends by Catherine Moon. So this is a part of her Tempting Monsters trilogy, and I love this trilogy, but this specifically is the second book. You don't have to read these ones in order if you don't want to, although Lady of Rook's Grave is the first one. So there is some public stuff kind of in all of these because there's different scenarios that happens, but specifically in the Company of Fiends, it is a sex company that there's this theater where they have these productions, and they're basically like live porn that happens with monsters and with humans and with different creatures. They do these acts, so instead of like a circus act, it's like this act and then there's sex at the end of it, you know? So they're acting out different scenes, and the Company of Fiends focuses on one of the heroines who's been working there for quite a while, and as she starts engaging in more than just work with a few of the different men. So this is a reverse harem. I think she ends up with 5 guys by the end of this one, / more, because one of them is interesting. I won't tell you how. But yeah, this one definitely has public scenes because it is happening on display at this theater where you can go and watch it happen. All right, then there's one this one, when I was looking at the list, I was like, oh yeah, this one happens. So Welcome to the Dark Side by Jana Darling. This is book 2 in her The Fallen Men series. And this is a forbidden relationship. This is a huge age gap, actually. The girl is like younger than one of his kids, at least. This also involves childhood cancer. It involves incarceration. It involves like just a lot of things. This one has a lot of triggers, but there is a scene in this one where she gets eaten out on a table at the biker bar. And I think Zeus makes most of the people leave, but it's still a public place and anyone could like walk into it. So that's a scene where that happens. It's pretty hot. All right, then we have The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. I love this one. This is a reverse age gap. This has Erica, who's just recently got divorced, and she's been taking better care of herself than ever. She got herself some new boobs. She's been feeling hot, and her pool boy happens to be her friend's, like, I think he's like 23 or 24. He's not super, super young, but he still is her best friend's son, and he's been her pool boy. And one day she ends up being home and she's like topless sunbathing in her backyard when he comes to clean. She doesn't know that he's going to be there that day, and also she wasn't supposed to be home, so he thought it was fine to come in. But he sees her, and he has always had a crush on her for like ages. And like all of this series takes place in like the Nashville neighborhood is the series, so each book is connected by the fact that it's all happening in like the same neighborhood and stuff. But anyway, he ends up finally like making a move on her when he sees her topless and he can't help himself, and so they end up doing stuff in her backyard. Now there is also a scene where they get caught doing some naughty stuff in her backyard. So that's why I put it as public, because she has neighbors who can see in and see things happening. So just know that there's that. I believe there's also time, because he's a musician, and I think they get it on in like a closet at one of the places. I can't fully remember, but anyway, they get kind of naughty with this one for sure. Nikki Sloan also has a series that has a lot of public things in it. Her Blindfold Club series has a lot of taboo, fun stuff in that one. All right, then there is Fixer Up by Tessa Bailey. This one is a brother's best friend. This is a fake dating one. This is a baseball player who is needing a little bit of character reboot, and our heroine needs some people to think that she's grown up a little bit, because she is a birthday clown. That's what she does. I love that about her. Her name is Georgie, and she needs people to take her a little bit more seriously, including her family. So by being seen dating this famous baseball player, things could really like be looking up for her. Now, the public scene in this one involves him eating her out in the dugout at the baseball field where anyone could find them. So, yep, that happens. It's pretty hot. All right, then there is God of Fury by Rena Kent. Now, actually throughout this series, there are multiple ones that could be considered having some public sex scenes in them, but I thought I would share this one because this is my most recent favorite. I love this one so much. And I believe this one also involves some stuff happening when they're going for a run. There might be some more that I'm missing, but I think that's kind of the main one that's coming to mind when I think of it. But a lot of the scenes in this series that have public stuff involve primal play and being chased down in the woods and fucked within an inch of your life. But yeah, this one has some scenes in it too. There is King of Pride by Anna Huang. So this one also involves the Valhalla Club and them getting it on in a room that it's supposed to be a secret room, but other people have access to it as well. Our heroine, I forgot what it is, Isabella, she bartends, I believe, at Valhalla Club sometimes, and Kai Young, he is a patron of the Valhalla Club, which is kind of cool. And she's making drinks for him one night, and they have some connection through their friends. So there's a little bit of flirty flirt between the both of them. But he also acts a little bit stuck up, just a little bit. And so that kind of annoys her, but there's also some flirty going on. And when she has been sneaking there's a piano room there, and she really loves playing on this beautiful piano. And he discovers that she's been going there. They start kind of meeting up there. So there ends up being a point in this one where they do it there. I think there's also another scene. There's a scene too where they go to a dance club and they do stuff behind a curtain that anyone could open and see them. So I believe that's a scene too. I can't remember if he eats her out or if they actually fuck completely. I can't remember. But yeah, there's a couple different places where they could get caught. So it works for it. And then the last one I want to mention, this one is just a quick novella, but it's super hot. This is actually an MMM scene. But this is there's actually two novellas in this bind up, but it's from C.M. Nascosta, and it's called Hollow. And one of the shorts is, they're both about Ichabod Crane, but the Headless Horseman, there's a Headless Horseman, there's more than just one of them, but in the beginning of this, I think it's Ichabod Crane who walks in. I can't remember, but anyway, he's at a sporting club, and he'd been playing tennis or badminton. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but he walks into the men's locker room, and there's two Headless Horsemen, and they have traded heads and are sucking each other off that way. They also can suck themselves off, of course. If you're headless, why aren't you doing this, And Ichabod is watching, and again, I might be saying the wrong name for each person, whatever. I think Ichabod's the one watching, but the Headless Horseman sees him, and he's next time I catch you watching, I'm gonna fuck you and suck you at the same time. And eventually, yeah, there ends up being a scene in the gym shower with two men, two heads, and then also Ichabod Crane. So there's an MMM scene in here, which involves being able to pass heads around different places. So don't think about it too much, but that one also has some public scenes in it. So there you go. All right, there you go. Those are some recommendations for public sex. Again, if you'd like more recommendations, you can check out, if I remember, I'll have linked my voyeurism recommendation as well. Let me know some of your favorite. There are actually a ton that have this. These are just some that I could distinctly remember scenes for, but there are tons of these where, people getting fingered under the table or getting banged in a bathroom. There's tons of those. These are just ones where specific scenes live rent-free in my head, so I wanted to recommend those. So thank you so much for watching. Again, you can get links to all of these in my description. You can support the channel by a one-time gift or becoming a channel member. I also have a Patreon. I also have an Etsy shop. I have just all the things, are all different ways you can support the channel, so check those out. But the very least you can do, but certainly not the leastest, I don't know, is give this a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel. That also helps me out. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and we'll see you next time.